presented by Lovecraft Country. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch 2020, our show following all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Damon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond. And Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
Good to see you, Damon.
You as well. Our big topic this week, it is very likely that we are now, as of today, less than 3 months away from the launch of one or both of these next-gen consoles, and we still do not know the price or the exact release date of either one. I think this is highly unusual, and I think a lot of gamers out there are starting to get a little exasperated, waiting to find out when they can pre-order, how much it's going to cost, and when they're actually going to be able to play these next-gen consoles. Back in 2013, after Sony's E3 press conference in June, pre-orders for PS4 went live immediately, so that would have been early June. Jonathan, what do you think the holdup is this year? Obviously, we are still in the midst of an ongoing pandemic. Can it just be chalked up to that, or do you think there's more at work? You think both of these companies are a little bit afraid to show their hand first?
Well, Damon, you were mentioning we're likely 3 months away. Anything is likely or not likely at this point, it feels, because it is such a strange lead up to these consoles. I definitely think, obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has absolutely caused some of the delays we've seen, not just in the promotion of what's come out so far, but also what hasn't come out. I'm sure that is playing a large factor in it. I also do think a big factor of it, though, is these companies waiting for each other to make the move. They're both in very interesting places. And as we spoke about, especially last week, they're both going for pretty different approaches this time around, as opposed to past generations where it kind of felt like they were largely trying to sell you the same vision of the future for gaming. Each is kind of putting their own spin on it this time. And so I think because of that unusual approach right now, mixed in with the COVID-19, mixed in with the economic crises facing both, North America, but also so much of the world, I think all of this is coming together to kind of create when do we want to tell people, hey, here's the box you're going to have to spend hundreds of dollars on in just a few months. It's a hard sell to give anyone, whether, or not they've really been affected during this time.
Ryan, what's your take?
Well, we've talked about this a lot on this show and within IGN. And so I reached out to a well-connected Microsoft person, let's put it that way, and just asked them, based on their experience and what they know and what they hear, is it just the game of chicken that we all think it is, that it seems to be, of just one not wanting to get one upped by the other? And this person thought, basically, yes, that's exactly what it is, because Microsoft clearly has a strategy with the Series X on the high side, performance-wise, and on the more affordable side with the still as yet officially unconfirmed Xbox Series S. And this person seemed to think that Microsoft wants to wait out Sony to see if their strategy with the higher and the lower end box is going to work out as far as making them look good price-wise, or if Sony is going to do something on the price that could force them to either adjust or be forced to not look good, not come out of it looking good. More likely the adjust situation, based on comments that Phil Spencer has given to us along the way on this show and on my show Unlocked. So it really is unprecedented that we're this close and there's still nowhere to be found as far as price and release date goes. And another thing that this person told me was that something to bear in mind was that all of these consoles, technically 4 of them, but really 3 of them, and then the PS5 digital edition, were all made with price objectives in mind 2-3 years ago as these things get planned out, but that parts costs may have changed, may have gone up over the last year, over the last couple of years, as supplies change and demands change and just the market shifts. So there's sort of a lot of moving targets and a lot of basically, I think they both probably want to price the consoles as high as they possibly can, but without getting embarrassed by the other one. So sooner or later, somebody's going to blink, but it really does, according to this insider that I spoke with, it does seem to be, in their opinion, truly the game of chicken that we all have thought it was.
Now, Ryan, you've said before you have a feeling that the Xbox Series X will actually come in at a lower price point than the PS5, in spite of it being a more powerful console in terms of just raw teraflops. Is that something you still believe?
Yeah, I mean, just it's based on Phil saying what he said on Unlocked earlier this year about staying agile on price and having the backing. He specifically said, I didn't even ask, had the backing of CFO Amy Hood and CEO Satya Nadella. That tells me that they have a plan in place where if Sony makes an unexpected price announcement, meaning lower than they expect, that they are prepared to react to that. So I feel like I almost feel like, especially with Halo out of the picture for a while, it just feels to me, and I know they're much bigger concerns than this, but it does seem to me that it almost has to be lower because we talked about it last week. The price, the lack of Halo really weakens the argument for buying Series X in the short term. So price would go a long way towards maybe helping offset that.
Jonathan, if Xbox is able to say our system is more powerful and less expensive, is that something Sony should be worried about?
Definitely price is going to be, I think, a deciding factor for a lot of people if they are still split. I think a lot of at least the hardcore audiences seem to be pretty firm in what they're going to buy this year. And I think someone who's really looking forward to the PlayStation 5 won't be swayed by $100 difference right now. Granted, unless they're times are very tough for a lot of people, so it could make the difference. But I think if someone's like, I can't wait to play Spider-Man this fall or Astro's Playroom or something this fall, I am going to buy a PS5. I don't think they're going to be swayed to buy an Xbox One unless there is a massive gulf in price. I do think it'll be an attractive thing down the road. And I think once we start to get into, price drops or bundles as future holiday seasons come around, I do think that price difference can really matter and can be important.
While we wait for the prices and release dates for both next-gen consoles, Xbox has released some new information on the future of its user interface today, showing off sort of a refresh of its user interface for both Series X and Xbox One. And it's all about being faster, loading the machine faster, loading the home screen, and getting you into your games faster. Apparently, Microsoft claims the home screen loads 50% faster from start and 30% faster after returning from a game. But one feature that I thought was pretty cool is that now you can connect it to a smartphone app, connect it to your phone. And so when you capture footage from your console, the footage is automatically sent to your phone for publishing and sharing your vids. Ryan, I think that's a incredibly smart idea. What did you think about it?
Totally with you. Yeah. And it is a little bit of a multi-step process now with having to hit the guide button and then press Y. But remember, on the Series X controller, there is a share button. So that will make it a nice, super quick thing to do. And then you can, post it to Twitter or whatever from your phone. So that's definitely cool. But I have to say, still haunted by the early Xbox One days when like 10% of the GPU was reserved for Kinect. And then they had to basically undo all that over the first couple of years. The fact that this UI now is going to take 40% less memory usage. So it's obviously different than the Xbox One GPU example I gave, but still the fact that you want the system to be as efficient with its resources as possible, because the more efficient it is with the UI and the non-gaming things, the more resources it can dedicate to gaming things. So that's super good news, I think, too.
Yeah. And Jonathan, of course, Sony has also been talking a lot about how gaming on the PlayStation 5 should be much faster across the board than it is on PS4. But what about this particular feature about automatically sending your captured gameplay footage to your phone so you can publish it on social media? Is that something you'd also like to see Sony incorporate in the PS5?
I love it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar. There's already a PlayStation app that works pretty well with the PS4 as it is. Right now, you share directly from the PS4 just by hitting the share button, which, of course, Microsoft has talked about, wanting to grab from the PlayStation side of things. I'm curious what the change to it being a create button this time around means, both for like the ease and fluidity with which you take a clip or a screenshot and upload it. But, photo mode and sharing clips of games has become just so instrumental to the way we play games, especially first-party Sony games this year. So I'm sure that they are looking at ways to advance that feature set this time around for sure.
Sure. And finally, for news updates this week, we should be getting reveals of two big, long-anticipated DC/Batman games this weekend at DC Fandom. We should be getting Rocksteady's long-in-development Suicide Squad game, possibly called Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and then also the long-rumored and long-teased Batman Court of Owls game, which is from WB Montreal. Big new AAA announcements like this, Ryan, surely these are going to be next gen games. Would that be a safe guess?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, Batman specifically might cross back into Xbox One and PS4. Suicide Squad might not, depending on how far out it is. But if it ultimately is built for PS5 and Series X only, which I'd actually be more excited if it was, and just leaving the old consoles behind, then Rocksteady, as renowned a developer as they are, will have released one game this generation. And that's not a complaint.
Yeah.
I mean, I want them to just do great stuff. I don't need them to be pumping out, iterative stuff every year. But just as an interesting factoid, a 7-year console generation, and we'll have gotten one game from Rocksteady. So just really excited to see what Suicide Squad is. I mean, is it going to be kind of Batman, but just plussed way up, or is it going to be and look and feel like something completely and totally new and different? So yeah, I'm eager to see it this weekend at the Fandom.
And Jonathan, how about you? I know we've talked about Court of Owls a little bit on some of the other IGN shows that we're on together. Are you excited to learn more about both of these games this weekend?
I want to point out, even though, of course, Batman Arkham Knight is the only multi-platform game Rocksteady put out this generation, they did shortly after put out Batman Arkham VR, which it's a much smaller game, but nonetheless, I think still a full release from them right at the launch of PSVR. But anyway, no, I think these are both, the DC universe of characters is so big and so massive, and it's been so quiet on the video game front outside of really Lego games when it comes to them. So I think given the acclaim that the Batman franchise had, given the acclaim Rocksteady as a developer had, I think both of these games hold so much excitement and so much potential for that fan base and for people who've just been longing for more superhero games because, other than a couple Marvel games here and there, there's actually not been that many across this generation. So it'll definitely be an exciting thing to have these two finally revealed.
Yeah, I'm also excited to finally learn what these games are. Before we go this week, we have the results of the poll we ran last week. We asked you, does Halo's delay, Halo Infinite, change your next-gen console purchasing plans now that it's not going to be there at launch? And Ryan, I'm sorry to report that the winning result with 53% was I was already going to skip the Series X. When you see results like that,
does the market? The market is look at what this generation, it was 2-1 Sony over Microsoft. So it doesn't surprise me at all in a poll that half the respondents say that they're not planning to get a Series X at this point anyway. That's Microsoft's challenge is it's going to be very difficult for them to convince anybody to outright switch over and just leave Sony entirely. Their goal, I'm sure, is to they're just trying to get people in their ecosystem, into that Game Pass ecosystem, be it on a Series X or a PC. So it'll be a long road for Microsoft, but they're certainly doing a great job of making Game Pass compelling, and we'll just see what happens as these first party games do come along. And I think when the consoles are both out, if there is a notable third-party game advantage on Series X versus PS5, that will certainly help turn the tide for them a bit as well.
And of course, most powerful console at a cheaper price could also maybe move the needle for them a little bit. All right, we've got a new poll for you to vote on this week. We want to know, has Sony and Microsoft's silence on price and release date affected your next-gen hype? Are you not feeling affected at all? You're still going to get one or both right at launch? Or you're waiting to see what they're going to cost before you make your decision? Make sure to vote in our poll at IGN.com. We'll share the results with you next week. And there should be more exciting next-gen news coming up very soon. Coming out of Gamescom, it's one of the biggest gaming events of the year. Kicks off next week right here on IGN. You can tune in starting August 27th for everything Gamescom has to offer, including exclusive world premieres, hands-on gameplay, cosplay even, and one of IGN's editors being played by a robot. And I'm being told that last thing is true. That's something that's actually going to happen. Make sure you tell all your friends using the hashtag Gamescom 2020 on your favorite social platforms. Gamescom kicks off right here on IGN, August 27th. And that will do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch 2020. Thank you to both Ryan and Jonathan. We'll be back next week with more Next Gen news and rumors on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. We'll see you then. Gamescom 2020 is the heart of gaming, and you can keep to the beat right here on IGN. We've turned the single biggest show in gaming into 5. Gamescom Now is your virtual show floor with up to the second live coverage. Gamescom Daily Show, Gamescom's first ever late night talk show. Our Gamescom Awesome Indies Show, the freshest deep cuts in indie gaming. And finally, the Gamescom Best of Show, including the Gamescom Award. Gamescom 2020 is available on IGN and wherever you stream Gamescom Now.